Yeah. Good evening, everyone. Do I show on your screens? Ah, okay. Yeah, perfect. My name is Simon. We want to thank Switch Energy for the opportunity. We are the Mountaineer teams. Um, my name is Simon, and I'm from Lebanon.
Hello everyone, my name is Nira Al-Awad. I am from Kuwait.
Hello, everyone. My name is Connor Anderson. I'm from the U.S.
My name is Nicholas Lipinski. I'm also from the U.S.
This slide shows a brief outline of our workflow, starting with our first and main country, Kenya, then diving into Bangladesh. At the very first step, we go over Kenya's demographics as well as an energy overview of Kenya. Also, we created a timeline that shows the energy development in Kenya. After that, the problem statement is stated and addressed with its solution. Last but not least, the solution is explained and shown explicitly. Finally, an impact analysis takes place. The same process was also implemented in Bangladesh.
Kenya, located in East Africa, with its dynamic capital Nairobi, covered 224,926 square miles and is home to around 55 million people, with 71% residing in rural areas. In 2020, it ranked as the third largest economy in sub-Saharan Africa, driven by key sectors like tourism, forestry, mining, agriculture, fishing, and manufacturing. The average income stands at $1.25 per hour, with 76.54 having access to electricity. Kenya is committed to greener future, aiming to transition to 100% clean energy by 2030, evidenced by its 0.41 ton of hydrocarbon emission per capita in 2021. As of August 2023, an inflation rate of 6.7% reflects the nation's economy resilience. Kenya vibrant culture, economy, and environmental aspiration, making it an extraordinary destination in East Africa. Geothermal main Kenya power hub is at the Olkaria Mechanical Project, situated in the beautiful Hill Gats National Park near the tranquil Lake Naibash in Narkra County. Of the 6 geothermal power stations here, 5 belong to Kengen and 1 is owned by Ormat Technologies. In 2021, geothermal energy accounted for a significant 41% of the county electricity generation. Kenya energy evolution unfolds in distance phase. It's counted in the 1960s and 1970s with the Turkwal hydroelectric power station, followed by 1980s and 1990s expansion. The 2000s saw a shift to renewable energy, while 2010 marked the start of oil and gas exploration. By 2013, Kenya became a global leader in geothermal energy. The year 2060 and 2020 introduced off-grid solar and ambitious clean energy goals. In 2022, diversification efforts and in the motion. Today, we witness ongoing growth, tackling challenges, enhanced accessibility, and embracing renewable energy, securing Kenya energy future. Moving to the problem overview. In Kenya energy landscape, several pressing challenges demand our attention. Among this is energy poverty affecting us, struggling 87.5% of households with disparate across region. In urban areas, 97% enjoy electricity access, while the figure dropped to 62% in rural energy. Clean cooking fuel remains a luxury for only 20% of the population. The resilience of the Kenya economies is remarkable, with a 7.5% recovery in 2021 following the COVID-19 pandemic. However, the environmental issue, including deforestation, soil erosion, water scattering, poaching, and pollution, cast and shadow of the nation progress. The challenges highlight the instruct blank balance Kenya must strike between the addressing energy disparities and sustained economic growth and preserving in the energy in the environment.
Taking a look at Kenya's problems due to energy poverty can be broken down into 7 different components. Primarily, that limited access to modern energy leads to implications with the health impacts. Economic constraints hold a big deal when it comes to the energy poverty, or more specifically, a way to fix it in Kenya. The educational challenges are also linked back to that limited access to modern energy. Being able to trend away from biomass as a source of energy will limit the environmental degradation in Kenya. The energy inequality between the urban and the rural regions is also a very large problem within Kenya, as well as the limited industrial and economic growth within the country, Kenya as a whole. Looking at these 2 regions again, 29% of the total population lives in urban regions within Kenya, while only 3% of these urban regions do not have reliable access to electricity, where the rural population is over double, 71% of that total population, while 38% of them have unreliable access to electricity. Looking at the cooking fuel issue in Kenya, biomass is the main contributor to these unclean cooking fuels. And an unclean cooking fuel is any type of combustible that yields a high carbon footprint after it has been used as a source of energy. This main source of biomass generally includes wood. And what a drop in the usage of this biomass would lead to is less pollution, a lower carbon footprint as a whole. It would lead to less loss of life due to the respiratory ailments it causes, as well as a decreased amount of deforestation or production of this biomass as a whole in Kenya. Looking at some of the data for this, 80% of Kenyans do not have access to clean cooking fuels. And due to this and due to the combustion of wood and other biomass here, over 21,000 deaths are recorded every year due to these unclean cooking fuels. One way that this has been looked at to be rectified already is through the use of bioethanol clean cook stoves. Over 300,000 of these units have been sold in the greater Nairobi region. But again, this is primarily in their urban regions, where not a lot of effort or not a lot of success has been occurring within the rural regions of Kenya.
Jumping to the objective of the problem solution, starting with the first objective is to cover and deliver clean energy to the maximum population by 2033. Secondly, create a healthy and affordable plan to deliver the energy, also to take into account carbon storage and credit. Finally, solve as much as problems that energy poverty creates in Kenya. The Republic of Kenya is actively working to boost its energy production with a strong focus on green energy sources. Their power development plan spanning from 2017 to 2037 outlines an ambition goal to have renewable energy account for more than 60% of the nation's total energy capacity by 2037. To achieve this, they plan to significantly increase their geothermal energy production, aiming to triple and double their hydroelectric capacity. Moreover, they have plans to augment their solar energy capacity to 852 megawatts and their wind energy to the same capacity by 2037. In addition to these incentives, Kenya recognizes the importance of bioenergy, which currently fulfills 68% of the country's final energy need, particularly for cooking and heating. To harness the full potential of bioenergy in Kenya, the government has launched the Kenya Bioenergy Strategy for 2020 and 2027. This strategy is designed to encourage the sustainable use of biomass resources, both in the medium term as an additional energy source and long-term substitute. Um, Kenya's domestic electricity generation fully satisfies its power requirements. In the last decade, the country has witnessed a 1.5-fold increase in its total electricity production. As of 2021, a substantial 58% of the electricity came from non-hydro renewable energy sources, while hydroelectric power plants contribute about 34, and fossil fuels power plants also accounted for only 8%. Notably, the production of electricity from non-hydro renewables has nearly quadrupled in the last 10 years. Geothermal generation is currently the dominant source, making up to 56.3% of the electricity supply, and is expected to maintain its predominance thanks to its cost effectiveness and immunity to weather conditions. Lastly, in Kenya, geothermal and hydropower are the leading sources of energy, accounting for 36.2 and 35.7 installed capacity, respectively. Wind energy follows at 18.3 and solar for 6.3%. Notably, hydropower and other renewable played a significant role in generating 92 of the country's electricity in 2020. Kenya's consumption of fossil fuels, primarily coal and petroleum products, has generally increased over the past decade due to population growth and economic expansion, with a temporary decline in 2020 caused by the COVID-19 pandemic.
Moving into our solution for energy poverty in Kenya, our mindset was if it's not broken, don't fix it. So we are moving forward with geothermal. There are various kinds of geothermal power plants and energy. There are hot, dry rock methods in which wells are drilled and reservoirs are cracked or fractured into the ground. Or there are traditional geothermal methods in which pre-existing reservoirs are found and tapped into. Our proposed solution is Sage's geothermal, which entails reciprocating well. What's the terminology? Yeah. Reciprocal drawing from and feeding to the reservoirs, the wells. So essentially, a cold well is pumped into and a hot well is pumped out of, and that generates power. And then once the hot well is pumped out of, cold water will then be pumped into what was the hot well, and the cold well that cold water was pumped into has had the chance to heat up and is then pumped out. Geothermal energy in remote regions will be able to provide up to 259 megawatts of power continuously, which adds 2.27 billion kilowatt hours per year of energy to the infrastructure. This energy will be able to power small electrical burners in these remote regions, each requiring roughly 0.8 kilowatts of energy. This implementation will beat out the bioethanol burners and allow for completely clean cooking. Our analysis of our solution and seeing how well it will work. In Kenya and in Bangladesh, There are geothermal regions which can easily be tapped into. In Kenya, there is the Thermal Rift Valley, which consists of volcanic activity, which has already been tapped into by countries like Kenya. In Bangladesh, as you can see on this map, it's active in geothermal energy, and we plan to tap into that. According to Kenyan's geothermal development company, GDC, there are what drilling a well costs between 3.5 and 6.5 million dollars. Their mission is to drop that cost from 6.5 to 3.5 million dollars. So we've done the analysis given both scenarios. We've taken a 10% reduction of our budget and used that as money for power station development, power station infrastructure, and power transmission. It should be noted that there's the possibility to reach reservoir temperatures of between 150 and 250 degrees Celsius at depths of 3 to 6 kilometers worldwide. In parts of Kenya, though, there is the capacity to reach temperatures of 350 degrees Celsius at depths of only 1 to 2 kilometers. These yield turbine inlet temperatures between 120 and 180 degrees Celsius. And in order to be able to produce enough power using a full flow power station, the requirements of water flow rate are around 7,800 tons per hour and 4,700 tons per hour of continuous flow. This will yield a 38% increase in access to clean energy in rural areas, and overall in Kenya, 27%. Like I mentioned before, given the two scenarios of how much it costs to drill wells, we are either able to manufacture or develop 71 pads of 6 wells each, or 132 pads of 6 wells each. The operating conditions of each of those power stations is 98 kilograms per second for low temperature wells that are $3.5 million wells, or 16 kilograms per second for high inlet temperatures in the $3.5 million wells. It's the high limit is 30 kilograms per second for the $6.5 million pads. And in order to be able to safely operate, the lower heating limit or lower inlet temperature is 130 degrees Celsius. Should each well cost $6.5 million to drill. So if the wells cost more than $6.5 million, the minimum inlet temperature has to be greater than 130 degrees Celsius. This allows for safe flow of less than 100 kilograms per second continuous flow. And this will provide Kenyans in rural regions with 153 kilowatt hours per person per year throughout all of Kenya, which is the current average energy consumption per year.
Jumping into Bangladesh, Bangladesh is situated in South Asia with Dhaka as its capital. Spans an area of 57,321 square miles, and is home to 173 million people, with 61% residing in rural areas. The nation's economy ranks 26 globally, with a major reliance on natural gas. However, only 25% of the population has access to clean energy. And in 2019, CO2 emissions per capita were 0.55 metric tons. Bangladesh grapples with a growing energy crisis, where a substantial portion of its population lacks gas. The demand is currently met by various power sources, but the available resources fall short. The country's potential lies in its substantial natural gas reserves. To meet growing demands, renewable energy sources like solar, wind, tidal, geothermal, and nuclear energy are being explored, with a focus on geothermal and nuclear energy for electric power generation.
A similar analysis was done in Bangladesh with similar well drilling costs. So, given wells costing $3.5 million per well, we would be able to drill 132 6-well pads. And if they cost 6.5 million, we could drill 71 6-well pads. The flow rate of operation per well would have to be 30.7 kilograms per second or 5.1 kilograms per second, given the upper and lower inlet temperatures of pads with $3.5 million wells, or 57.1 kilograms per second and 9.5 kilograms per second as the lower and upper limit of $6.5 million well pads.
Moving into the impact analysis in both of these countries, we take a look at the social impacts in both Kenya and Bangladesh. First of all, we'll be able to boost food security, having reliable access to energy, and be able to potentially use it for purposes other than clean cooking fuels, and potentially use it for the implementing the use of reliable food growth. It's also going to increase the employment opportunities in both Kenya and Bangladesh, not only on the pad itself, but also with the maintenance and the upkeep of anything related to the pad maintenance, or the transmission of this energy itself. It's majorly reduces the amount of unclean energy that will be used, whether that be from biomass, from fossil fuels, or from other means of energy. Geothermal energy also has a very long-standing record for reliability and long-term energy production. And geothermal energy will not go away anytime soon. It will continue to feed into itself, provide energy for decades and eons to come. It also increases the remote access of this electricity in these rural regions. This remote access is going to be able to increase the remote education possibilities, as well as the health of these people in rural areas, and provide them with the ability for better healthcare, as well as, once again, this clean cooking fuel options that we are looking to implement here. Looking over at the environmental side of things, both Kenya and Bangladesh, it's going to conserve the biomass in these areas and prevent these, or allow for these not to be used as a main form of energy. This will have long-term sustainability, the fact that we do not continue to have to add to this energy. We are able to do it once and let it produce energy for us for a long time. There's a minimal water requirement with this, which is very good for these Southern African regions. This minimal water requirement is that once we are injecting into these wells, we'll be able to retain most of this, upwards of 95% of this water, as we go from well to well to well. It'll only need to be added as we continuously lose a little bit to the formations. It's going to reduce the carbon footprint by, again, not having to rely on this biomass and these unclean means of energy for energy production, as well as having a smaller surface footprint, allowing for the biodiversity on land to be retained, as well as geothermal plants and pads themselves have small footprints when it comes to surface area on land.